Hey friends, I hope your week is off to a great start. Several of you have asked me to test a cheesecake recipe. So today I'm going to be attempting Bon Appétit's burnished Basque cheesecake that was developed by Molly Baz. So I've never made cheesecake before, and Molly described this as the anti-cheesecake and said that it's pretty much impossible to screw it up. So I feel like this is kind of a safe place for me to start today. And I do these Bon Appetit recipe tests every single Wednesday. So if there's a specific recipe you'd like to see me test in the future, just let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please be sure to give me a big thumbs up and click subscribe. Without any further ado, let's see how this goes. A link to the recipe and ingredient quantities are in the description box below. The first thing I did was get my pan ready. So I greased it with butter and then I cut parchment paper to line the inside. When cutting the parchment paper, you want to have about 2 to 3 inches in length extend up the sides of the pan. This will provide support to the cheesecake when it rises. So the batter starts off pretty simply, just by combining the granulated sugar and the 4 blocks of cream cheese. So you're going to want to beat this on medium to high speed until the sugar is fully dissolved in the cream cheese. So you'll check to make sure that this is done by just rubbing the batter between your fingers, and you shouldn't feel any gritty sugar particles. If you feel sugar particles, you want to just keep mixing until it's fully dissolved. Once the sugar is fully dissolved, we can start adding the eggs into the batter. So my eggs are at about room temperature. I had them sitting on the counter for about 15 minutes while I was preparing all my other ingredients. So you want to add the eggs one at a time, and after each addition, I cranked the speed on my mixer up to medium-high for about 15 to 20 seconds. I was really just looking to make sure there were no yellow yolk streaks left in the batter. Then I turned the speed back down to medium-low, added the next egg, and cranked the speed up again. So you just repeat that until the eggs are fully incorporated. The recipe indicated that you should stop and scrape your bowl frequently throughout this process. So my mixer has this scraper beater that cleans the inside of the bowl as I'm mixing. So even with that, I was still stopping and pretty regularly scraping the sides of my bowl just to ensure that everything was completely incorporated. You want to make sure that this mixture is completely homogeneous. If there are any parts that are mixed unevenly, it's going to cook at a different rate and it will affect the texture of the end product. Looking back on this, I wish I had removed the bowl from the stand mixer to sift in the flour. It would have just been a lot easier and I wouldn't have had nearly as much flour all over the counter and my mixer. Once the flour is in this batter, you want to mix it as briefly as possible just to ensure that all the flour is evenly incorporated. If you overwork it once the flour is in the mixture, you're going to develop the gluten, which will give you a tougher end result. Last, I'm just pouring the completed batter into my prepared springform pan. And using a spoon or an offset spatula, you just want to spread the batter around to get an even layer in the baking dish. I noticed that my parchment paper was actually sticking up a little bit too high to fit in the oven without touching the heating elements on the top of the oven. So I trimmed that down quite a bit just to make sure that I didn't start a fire. When pulling this out of the oven, you want to look for a deep golden brown color and a little bit of jiggle in the center. After cooling completely, carefully peel away the parchment paper and you are ready to enjoy your cheesecake. Okay, so the cheesecake has been out of the oven and just kind of hanging out for the last 4 hours or so. So I think it is down to room temperature and I cut myself a slice. I think it looks pretty good. The top of it is not quite as burnished as what Molly had in the BA video, but I still think it looks really great. It definitely looks nice and dense here. I like this kind of darkness along the bottom. You can see the outer crust has a lot of nice color as well. So I'm super excited to give this a taste. I love the texture, love the toastiness that's coming through. So you can see the bottom, got some really nice color. You can just see that it goes all the way around. So toasty, I really like it. So overall, I am really happy with how this cheesecake turned out. It's definitely something I would consider making again. I think that the taste was fantastic. I like the contrast between the creamy, smooth inside and then that really toasty, kind of sticky, caramelized outside. Plus, I think the appearance of this is really kind of cool. If you took this to a party, people would definitely want to know, what is this dessert? And I think everyone would want to taste it. So I think this is a win across the board. I'm really pleased here. So I hope that you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, please be sure to give me a big thumbs up and click subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.